Julian chased me for 2 years and spoiled me for 5. 5 years ago, he was supposed to have died in the line of duty. His body never recovered. Today, 5 years later, Captain Reed personally called me, saying Julian had been found, alive and well, but he's getting married. On the way to that coastal town, Captain Reed and the accompanying police kept trying to dissuade me, but I wouldn't give up. I stroked the plain ring on my hand. He proposed to me. He's my fiancé. How can he marry another woman? Plane to bus, the 5-hour bus ride made me sick as a dog. After 10 hours, the 4 of us finally arrived in that town. Over there. Captain Reed pointed to a guest house called Sunny Days. The previously unknown and suddenly became popular because of a set of photos taken by a tourist. The owner who suddenly appeared in the photos became a huge fan favorite. Even though only a profile was shown, it was enough to drive a group of people crazy. Captain Reed glanced at me. He doesn't remember anything. You must. I stared intently at the door, all my senses lost. When Captain Reed pushed open the door, the conch shell wind chimes rang out a crisp sound. Before us was a large courtyard. A pebble path only led to the house. There was a huge swing in the courtyard, along with a golden retriever and many cats. I looked at the animals in surprise. Suddenly, a person walked out from behind a curtain made of seashells. The person was tall and long-legged. His arms under the black t-shirt were firm and streamlined. His profile was clean and sharp. The moment I saw him, my body froze in place uncontrollably, my back tingling, my head buzzing. It was as if all my physical functions had been lost in an instant, and I could only stare at the man in front of me with all my strength. I've seen people who looked 80% like Julian, even with the same beauty mark under the corner of his eye, but I knew at a glance he wasn't Julian. The person in front of me was very different from my young man. His face was more mature than the young Julian, with more edges and corners, and even more sternness. I couldn't help but get closer and closer until I saw the beauty mark at the corner of his eye, the red string around his neck. Julian. I forced back the sobs in my voice and gently called out his name, afraid of scaring him away. He looked up at me, his eyes filled with utter unfamiliarity. What? Julian. I could barely say his name clearly. The man looked at me coldly. Sorry, miss. You've mistaken me for someone else. But I can mistake anything in this life, except for Julian, because he is half my life. Captain Reed hurriedly pulled me away. Excuse me, do you have any vacant rooms? Julian scrutinized us carefully with his arms crossed. Yes, how many rooms do you need? 2. Come in. He turned his head straight and walked into the house, not even looking at me. I naively thought that as long as he saw me, he would remember me. As long as he saw me, everything would be different. But the way he looked at me was unfamiliar, sharp, and with a hint of annoyance at being disturbed. I didn't cry when I heard he was alive. I didn't cry when I heard he was getting married, but thinking of the way he just looked at me, my heart felt like it was being squeezed in someone's hand, aching so much it was about to explode, and tears fell uncontrollably. ID. Captain Reed handed over our IDs. As the man took the ID, I clearly saw that the little finger on his left hand was missing a section. He walked towards the counter, his right leg limping slightly as he walked. I covered my mouth. Captain Reed took the room cards and hurriedly had someone take me out. I sat in the room for a long time before I could find my voice. How did he become like this? On the way here, I swore that when I met him, I would slap him hard, this ungrateful man. How could he forget me and marry another woman? But the moment I saw him, I suddenly couldn't bear to. I just wanted to hug him. I stayed in the room for a long time, so long that Laura was afraid something would happen to me and dragged me out of the room. Everyone was having a barbecue in the backyard. I saw Julian, who was grilling skewers, at a glance. Captain Reed was standing next to him, and the two seemed to be getting along well. Alara, are you feeling better? I nodded. Julian, let me introduce you. This is Alara. I slowly extended my hand, controlling myself not to shake. Alara, nice to meet you. The broad, warm palm briefly shook my hand. Julian, nice to meet you. The greeting between strangers. At that moment, my nose tingled, and I remembered when he had just proposed. He held me, his whole being gentle beyond words, and tenderly called me Mrs. Julian, nice to meet you. In the end, we missed each other. Looking at the person in front of me, I had countless things I wanted to ask, but in the end I only asked, "This place is beautiful. Are you living well here?" He skillfully flipped the barbecue grill and replied casually, "It's pretty good." "That's good." As we spoke, a chicken wing suddenly fell. He looked in the direction of the door. "Potato, come here." Potato was the name of a ginger cat we adopted together. He named it. He said, "It's fat and round, so let's call it Potato." Looking at the golden retriever wagging its tail, my throat tightened. "He's called Potato?" "Yeah, it's fat and round. What else would I call it?" I turned my back and quietly wiped away my tears. Only he could come up with such a tacky name. The skewers were grilled, and everyone gathered around to eat. Looking at the beer on the table, I took a can and poured it into my mouth. The bitter taste spread in my mouth. I looked at the person across from me. The beauty mark that I used to make fun of was still at the corner of his eye, and he still wore a red string around his neck, but I didn't know if it was the one I gave him. Everything felt unreal. Laura distributed the skewers to us, placing mushrooms on his plate. He picked them up before he could. "No, he can't eat mushrooms." Everyone at the table suddenly looked at me. Just as I was at a loss, a figure suddenly ran over and jumped directly onto Julian's back, rubbing against his neck affectionately. "Julian, I missed you so much." Julian hurriedly bent down, protecting the person behind him with one hand. "Get down." Although it was a reprimand, I heard only doting in his tone. The person on his back was pulled into his arms. He smiled and introduced, "This is my wife, Sierra." I was still holding the mushroom skewer, staring blankly at the girl with a smile as bright as the sun. My chest trembled, and my whole body felt like it had been hit by a heavy hammer, hurting so much I couldn't breathe. "Hello everyone, I'm Sierra, Julian's wife. Welcome to Haicheng." Captain Reed and the others greeted her in turn. Sierra was very talkative. She praised everyone. She praised me. "Alara, you're so beautiful. You're so thin. I'm so jealous. And your hair is so good. Unlike me, I'm going bald soon." Saying that, she suddenly remembered something, and turned her head to look at the man behind her. "It must be because you're drying my hair wrong. Pay attention, otherwise I'll be a bald bride at the wedding next week." Julian ruffled her hair, and smiled helplessly. "Okay." Looking at her clear eyes, untouched by a grain of dust, and filled with anticipation for the wedding, she was just like me back then. "Wedding?" Laura asked. "That's right. Next Wednesday is our wedding. I hope everyone can come." I opened another can of beer. Sierra also took a can, but the man snatched it as soon as she took it. "You're not allowed to drink." Sierra pleaded, "Just a sip." Saying that, she secretly kissed him, not caring that we were there. "Good Julian, just a sip, just one sip. Drink this." The white cup contained rising rose petals. When the cup was opened, the fragrance of roses wafted out. "Sierra Fronez." "Roses?" "Julian, I've told you 800 times I don't like flower tea. Why do you always forget?" "I don't know. I just always make it without thinking." Hearing his words, I turned my head away and finished the last sip of beer. I don't like to drink water. I overused my voice when reciting things in high school, and I couldn't even speak when it was bad. To get me to drink more water, Julian tried all sorts of ways to get me to drink water, rotating flower tea, fruit tea, and oolong tea. In winter, he would also make me stewed apple water and pear soup. Every time I drank an extra cup of water, the unapproachable Julian would almost worship my pink thermos cup. Seeing me drink beer, Sierra continued to bargain. "Look, Alara has already drunk a can. Maybe her hair is so good because she drinks beer." "You're a chatterbox." I looked at the beer by my hand and smiled bitterly. My former boyfriend also didn't let me drink, because I passed out after one bottle. He was very strict with me. Sierra looked at me. "Then if you drink like this now, won't he be angry?" I glanced behind her and shook my head. "He doesn't care about me anymore." As if she had said the wrong thing, Sierra looked at me apologetically and didn't make a fuss anymore, obediently hugging Julian's cup and drinking it clean. I only ate that mushroom skewer. I drank a lot of wine and my head was a little dizzy, so I went back early. When I went down the steps, I heard Sierra's hearty laughter. I looked back and saw Sierra clinging to Julian's back like a sloth, waving her hands and feet, talking nonstop. Julian was staggered by the clinging every now and then, but he still tidied up the table with a good temper, as if he was used to it. Julian is not a good-tempered person. I thought he was only good-tempered with me. I thought he would only love me in this life. Looking at Sierra, whose face was overflowing with happiness, I covered my aching heart, so sad I was about to die. That should have been me. I should have been the one spoiled rotten by Julian. I restrained the urge to tear the two of them apart, and forced myself back to the room. I opened my bag and dumped everything on the floor until I swallowed the medicine, and my tidal emotions slowly began to recede. When Laura came in, I had returned to normal. I thought you were going to make a big scene. I looked out the window. I was planning to, but I suddenly couldn't bear to. I saw you brought so many things. Did you want to help Julian recover his memory? The box contained our 10 years together. There was the first little note he wrote me and the first confession letter, as well as the gifts he gave me from age 18 to 28, and our first group photo and our first wedding photo. I shook my head. I didn't plan to. Laura looked at me in surprise. Why? Thinking of the tragic death of Julian's parents, I closed my eyes and steadied my emotions. I don't want him to suffer the pain of losing loved ones twice. I woke up late the next day. By the time I packed up and went out with my drawing board, it was already past lunchtime. Laura waved at me. Alara, I saved some food for you. Everyone was chatting at the wooden table in the courtyard. When Sierra saw me, she ran to the house and came out with an orange envelope in her hand. She offered it to me like a treasure. Alara, we don't have many relatives. This is a formal invitation for you to attend our wedding. It was a very formal invitation. I took the envelope but didn't have the courage to take out the invitation inside. Sierra kept urging me. Alara, you're studying art. Can you help us see how this invitation is designed? The thin piece of paper felt like 1,000 pounds. Come on, let me see. This color is so beautiful. Laura hurriedly said. I think so too. Julian chose this orange, and I chose purple, but the orange effect is better. Alara, what color do you like? I put down the easel and pointed to my orange clothes. Before high school, I didn't have a favorite color. Until one time I wore an orange jacket, and Julian said I looked good in orange. From then on, orange became my favorite color. Sister Alara, your taste is so similar to my Julian's. My Julian. Hearing those 4 words felt particularly jarring. Once upon a time, Julian loved to call me in front of others, my Alara. Seeing my expression, Sister Laura immediately took the invitation from my hand. The comic inside looks like you, very cute. But is this in the evening? The wedding is in the evening. Sierra rubbed her face. Julian requested that. Because he said. Because someone can't get up. Sierra stared blankly at me. Sister Alara. How did you know? That's exactly what Julian said. But the most important thing is Julian especially likes the evening. Julian had said that he liked the evening the most because at that time, Sleeping Beauty turned into his girlfriend. I naturally need a lot of sleep. Getting up at 5:30 in the morning in high school was the worst torture for me. For those 3 years every morning, I would sit behind Julian's bike, close my eyes, and continue sleeping while holding on to him. I could dream 3 dreams during the 10-minute break between classes. Every time I woke up, his school uniform was draped over me. I remember once, while half asleep, someone sighed in my ear, "Sai, you sleep so much, what am I going to do with you on our wedding day?" Until I turned 24, I woke up in the morning from his stubble pricking me. I pushed him and continued sleeping. He pulled me into his arms, gently patted my back, and said in a hoarse voice, "Alara, let's set our wedding for the evening." I hummed in response. He kissed my forehead and breathed a sigh of relief. I have to let my little sleepyhead get enough sleep. Or what if she throws a tantrum and doesn't marry me? Who would I complain to? And now, it's not that I won't marry him, but he's not marrying me. There's really no one to complain to. I got up and picked up the easel. At that moment, Sierra saw the ring on my ring finger. Seeing her gaze, I shook the ring. Because he said that too. "Are you married, Sister Alara?" "Yes, I've been married for 5 years. Sierra was very surprised. "Then where's your husband? Didn't he come with you? I looked at the man walking over in the distance, and shook my head slightly. As I walked out of the guest house, Sierra's laughter still followed me. She was telling Sister Laura about Julian's proposal process. I quickened my pace, as if demons were chasing me from behind. I found an open space, set up the easel, and just as I picked up the palette, I felt a dizzy spell. I took out a medicine box from my pocket, and swallowed a pill. Only then did the discomfort slowly dissipate. I've never been a lucky person. I have no parents, no friends, and I've never won a try again on a bottle. I thought the goddess of luck hated me, but on that day, I won a doll I had liked for a long time, got a free cup of milk tea, and won a 5,000 yuan cash prize in a supermarket's lucky draw. Even the cola I bought for Mia had a try again cap. Mia looked at me with a smile. Lucky goddess, thanks to you. I couldn't believe it. How could I, who had always been unlucky, be so lucky? Just as our car was turning, it suddenly lost control and crashed forward. Looking at the wall getting closer and closer, I screamed in fear. The car crashed through the wall. Surprisingly, the impact was almost non-existent. I vaguely saw a ray of orange light through my fingers. The light and the fragrance of flowers spread out, falling on a man in a suit in the middle. Julian stood in a sea of flowers, wearing a well-tailored suit. Friends and family were all dressed up. Even Potato was wearing a handsome little suit, squatting beside him. I looked at everything in front of me in shock until Julian walked over and opened the door. I still remember the first thing he said to me. He said, "Miss Alara, it's time." That was our secret code. Time to eat, time to leave school, time to kiss, time for you to marry me and me to marry you. He helped me out of the car, and applause filled the air. Julian, a man who had been in life and death situations for many years, was so nervous that he couldn't even speak properly. "Alara, did you have a good day?" I choked up and couldn't speak. I could only nod vigorously. He smiled devilishly. "Alara, there's something very, very important that I need you to help me with, and only you can do it." I looked at him. "What is it?" "Be my wife. Marry me, and I'll make you this lucky every day. And I'll give you one free with 2, maybe even 3. It's strange. Many things happen naturally between me and Julian, without any preparation or assumptions. It was like I knew he would definitely marry me, and he knew that I would only marry him. That day, after the proposal, he bought a lottery ticket on the way back. He said to me, "If I win, all 30 million yuan is yours. What if you don't win?" I asked him. He looked at me with a calm face. "It means marrying you used up all my luck." I laughed so hard. I said to him with a serious face, "I always thought I was unlucky. It turns out I was saving it all up to meet you." "That's right. You saved up 18 years of luck to meet me. I hope you cherish me." I leaned over and kissed him, and said to him very solemnly, "I will." When the sunset appeared, I greedily looked at the fiery red, the words still ringing in my ears, but the person was gone. When I carried the easel back, the lights outside the guest house were already on. As I got closer, I saw a figure standing at the door. Fiery red sparks floated in the air, and the smell of nicotine drifted over. I frowned and looked at the person in front of me. When he heard the movement and turned his head, I actually saw a trace of panic in his eyes. He quickly stubbed out the cigarette and awkwardly scratched the back of his head, just like Julian used to do every time he was caught smoking. I stood there, using all my self-control to ignore him. But just as we brushed past each other, I heard him say, "Alara, I remember you." With a bang, I felt all the blood in my body rush to my head. Had my Julian come back? I turned around stiffly. My shoulders and calves trembled uncontrollably, and my heart also trembled. The name Julian was on the tip of my tongue, but it stopped when I met his calm gaze. Julian would never look at me with that kind of look. He always looked at me with a smile, and the gentleness in his eyes enveloped me. The sudden great joy and great sorrow made my heart ache. I lowered my head, not wanting him to see my reddened eyes. "Captain Reed told me, but he didn't tell me about you." He analyzed slowly. "I feel like you're very familiar, but not just familiar as colleagues. Every time I see you, I feel a sense of guilt, and even a little afraid of you. You know I'm allergic to mushrooms, and the red rope around your neck is the same as mine." The red rope was something we prayed for together at Xianyan Temple. I prayed for his safety, and he prayed that I would get my wish. The red rope had 2 silver pieces with our initials on them. I forgot. Julian was a scout. Although he lost his memory, the vigilance in his bones was still there. The overly enthusiastic attitude of Captain Reed and the others could not escape his eyes. It was only a matter of a day or 2 before he figured it out. As for my identity, he couldn't figure it out, or maybe he did figure it out but didn't dare to believe it. I slowly raised my head and met his scrutinizing gaze. He looked down at my ring. Sierra said, "You're married." I. Although his hands were in his pockets, I knew he must be clenching his fists now, his heart in a mess. Yes, the man who was about to win the heart of a beauty immediately, the man who was dizzy with happiness, suddenly had a woman appear who might have something to do with him. He must be distraught. My throat was dry and I couldn't make a sound. After several attempts, I slowly opened my mouth. "I am indeed married, but it has nothing to do with you." Visibly, I saw him breathe a sigh of relief. That second was the most painful second of my life. I never thought that I would have such a day in my life, that Julian would be glad that he had nothing to do with me. I still remember when he was in high school, when he was caught stealing glances at me, his ears turning red and his little expression of being at a loss. And when I agreed to be his girlfriend, he was so happy that he felt like he had gotten the whole world. I had only seen that kind of happy, wish-fulfilled smile twice. Then what about him? I looked at the person in front of me, and tears immediately burst out. He looked at me helplessly and apologized. "I'm sorry, I bent down, raised my hand, and stopped all his movements. "Your parents feel sorry for me and treat me like a daughter. You and I don't have much of a relationship. I came here mainly to take a look for the sake of the 2 elders. As for the red rope," I pulled hard, and the red rope fell off. "Your parents prayed for your safety, and they just prayed for one for me too." Julian looked at me without saying anything, but I didn't have the strength to keep up the facade anymore. These few words should be enough to let him marry in peace. I don't know how I walked back to the room. I thought I was controlling myself well, but the moment I turned around, tears streamed down my face. Tears smudged my makeup. Looking at my tired and weak face, I covered my face with both hands and squatted in the corner of the bathroom, and cried for a long time. 5 years. I dreamed of Julian coming back to my side, but the moment he appeared, I had to push him away. "Why do you have to do this to me?" "Why me?" Because of the emotional ups and downs, my stomach churned, and I tasted blood in my throat. "Alara, what's wrong? Open the door." I leaned against the wall and stood up. I flushed the toilet as usual, quickly touched up the makeup that had been smudged by tears, and then walked out like a normal person. "I'm okay, I accidentally fell." Sister Laura's distressed gaze made my heart ache. "You don't have to hold it in front of me." I turned my face away. "I'm okay." Sister Laura looked at me, hesitant to speak, and finally patted me and went back to bed. The moment I turned my head, I saw the things on the table again, the orange invitation, the evening wedding, the one that should have been mine. At that moment, I suddenly felt very unwilling, very unwilling. Emotion took over, and I rushed out the door and went straight to the hall. "I want to tell him, I am your fiancé." The salty sea breeze blew over, making my face hurt. Sierra's laughter came from the 2nd floor. I looked up and saw Julian brushing Sierra's hair. That careful but loving action was so familiar. Sierra was comfortably nestled in his arms, and I, the one who used to be in his arms, had become a bystander. I was frozen in place by the laughter. If I tell him, I am his fiancé, Julian is a man who takes responsibility to the end, what should he do with me? I don't want him to pity me. I just want Julian to love me. By the time I calmed down and went back, it was already dawn, but Sister Laura was still not asleep. Julian found out himself. Although he has amnesia, he hasn't forgotten his old trade. I know. What about his parents? Did Captain Reed tell him? The air was quiet for a few seconds. They said it was a car accident. I nodded and didn't say anything else. At least that reason was acceptable. Julian said he's going back to lynching with us after the wedding. After a long time, I said, he started a career and started a family. He should take his wife back to see his parents. He should. Did Julian ask you? I thought of the person who was waiting for me at the door again. He asked, but I didn't say anything. Don't worry. Elara, you know that's not what we mean. I clutched my stomach, which was in pain. But that's what I mean. From the age of 18 to 28, for a whole 10 years, Julian had become a part of my life. He was like a vine wrapped around my most important memories. Now that I'm tearing it away, it's bloody, and it hurts terribly. The third day I came here, insomnia found me again. I stayed awake until dawn. There were still 2 days until their wedding. Sierra's voice rang out early in the courtyard. She was busy preparing for the wedding. Here, I want a flower arch, with red roses. How long should the red carpet be? How big should the backdrop be? Julian, if there's no photo wall, you're dead. The sounds in the courtyard were constant. I buried my head in the covers, but Sierra's voice drilled straight into my ears. Actually, we also had a wedding. The flower path was made of white jasmine when he proposed. The bouquet was handmade by Julian, with orange freesias, exuding a sweet fragrance. The guest seats were decorated with orange ribbons. The menu was finalized after we revised it 4 times. Even the wedding candies were chosen together. The candy boxes had cartoon versions of the two of us printed on them. He held my hand as we walked down that long flower path. His warm hand trembled uncontrollably. It was just a rehearsal, but he was incredibly nervous. Everything was going so smoothly, but the mission happened that night. He didn't have time to put the wedding ring on my finger, nor did he get to see me wear the wedding dress embroidered with his name. He kept apologizing to me, saying he would be back in a week, just a week, and he would come back to marry me immediately. So I waited and waited for 5 years, and waited for the news that he was marrying someone else. When I finished putting on my makeup and went out, many people were setting up the venue in the courtyard. Sierra ran over to me immediately when she saw me. Sister Elara, I need a little help. I never imagined that the help Sierra wanted me to give was for her wedding. On the white backdrop, I skillfully took out my palette, found the paints I needed, and sketched the outline of a sunset with a few strokes. Okay, Sister Elara, you painted so well. If I didn't have to put photos on it, I would have loved to have you paint the whole thing. I put away my paintbrush. Photos? Sierra turned her head. Photos of Julian and me from the past 5 years. Sierra stuck the photos one by one on the backdrop. She was a naturally outgoing girl, or maybe she wanted to share her happiness with everyone, so she kept talking about their 5 years. This one is when Julian just got out of the hospital. He was so thin, but also very fierce. I saved him, and he worked for me to pay off his debt. Actually, I fell in love first. I pursued him for 2 years, and he always rejected me for the same reason. Sierra scratched her head. He said he forgot something very, very important, and didn't want anything else until he found it. I suddenly remembered what he said when he proposed. Elara, there's something very, very important I need your help with, and only you can do it. What? Be my wife. I looked at the person in the photo, my throat hoarse. Did you find that very, very important thing? Sierra shook her head. No, he doesn't remember anything. I accompanied him aimlessly for 3 years. Later, we went through some bad things together. He pitied me for being an old maid and reluctantly yielded to me. After a long time, I heard my own voice. I guess it's not important after all. Sierra immediately refuted me. No, it's very important to Julian. He hates hospitals, but for that thing he went to the hospital for treatment for 3 years, rain or shine. In the photo in front of me, Julian was standing by the sea, the sun shining on him. He was smiling wildly and recklessly. I seemed to see the 18-year-old Julian, the frivolous and arrogant young man, who only lowered his head to girls. I raised my hand and touched the photo. Why bother? Forgetting means it's not important. Sister Elara, please sign the first name. The orange signing pen felt incredibly heavy at that moment. I held the pen for a long time without moving. Never mind, my handwriting isn't very good. The flowers for the wedding needed to be ordered in advance. Julian was busy arranging the wedding with Sierra, so Sierra dragged me out with her. Actually, I really wanted to refuse, but I also wanted to hear her talk about him for the past 5 years. The flower shop was in town. The shop was small, But there were many flowers, Mr. Wallace, 1,000 red roses, needed the day after tomorrow. It looked like they were acquaintances. The owner gave an okay gesture. We just got some new freesias, very fresh. Do you want to take a few? Sierra shook her head. I like flowers with a strong fragrance and vibrant colors. That's not my flower. The girl in front of me was like a red rose, passionate and energetic, able to heal everything, including wounded people. When I left the flower shop, I still bought 2 freesias. The orange petals exuded a faint fragrance. There was a fruit stall on the roadside. Sierra squatted down to pick out mangosteens. Julian loves to eat mangosteens. I'll buy him more. We lived in a northern city. Common fruits were apples and pears. I didn't even know that his favorite thing to eat was southern mangosteen. Apart from his face, it seemed that everything else wasn't my Julian anymore. The roar of a motorcycle came from a distance. The swaying motorcycle quickly fled through the narrow alley. Behind it were 2 policemen. The motorcycle quickly approached, but the driver didn't have any intention of braking. The motorcycle brushed against Sierra's clothes just as she was about to get up. I used all my strength to push her away. The pain of the impact instantly appeared on my body. I was knocked into the fruit stall and fell to the ground with the scattered fruit. At that moment, I only saw my flowers being trampled underfoot. Sister Ilara. On the 3rd day of coming here, I was admitted to the hospital. When I woke up, it was evening. A group of people surrounded my bed, including Captain Reed and Julian. I really didn't have the strength to speak. Sierra said a lot, her eyes teary. I saw someone comforting her by patting her back, and then closed my eyes again. When I woke up again, it was in the middle of the night. The room was dark. The first thing I did was reach for my hair. Someone pulled down my hand in the darkness and fixed my hair for me. The back of my hand suddenly felt hot, and the person in the bed sobbed. When did it happen? I looked at the shadow in front of me and sighed. Half a year ago, I guess. Why didn't you say anything? I patted her arm. It's not a bad thing. This disease is a relief for me. I'm sorry, I'm really sorry. I didn't know you were sick. I was still guarding against you getting close to Julian. I patted Laura's hand. You're not wrong. I did have impure motives. That's Julian. The person I loved for 10 years and almost married. I had to fight for myself no matter what. The throbbing pain in my stomach came again. I held my breath for a while, and when the pain subsided a little, I said, if it wasn't for this disease, I would have really made a scene. Otherwise, I wouldn't be content. Laura's soft sobs made me feel uncomfortable. Really don't want to tell him? There's still a chance, Ilara. Laura's sudden defection took me a little by surprise. I tried to open my eyes wide to prevent tears from falling. Even if I was unwilling, I could only accept my fate. No. We all know that the deaths of Julian's parents weren't an accident, it was revenge. If he knows the truth later, how painful would he be? And according to his temperament, he wouldn't let it go. He might even risk his life to. I don't want him to be hurt again. I sniffled. I can't just tell him that I'm his fiancé and immediately ask him to take care of my funeral, right? Losing 3 relatives at once, what would he do? He's about to get married. Laura next to me cried more and more. I took her hand and comforted her instead. Don't cry for me. When I found out I had this disease, I felt relieved. Everything that tortured me was finally coming to an end. It wasn't until I heard about Julian that I felt like I was collapsing, but when I saw him with Sierra, I suddenly felt glad that I had this disease. Ilara. I turned my head away, and tears slipped into the pillow. Besides, you've seen it too. He's Julian, not my Julian. Julian must still be waiting for me to go find him. Laura, I'll be able to see him soon. Laura gently hugged me, and I hugged her back. Laura, can you do me a favor? That night, Laura cried and couldn't sleep, while I, because I had revealed my secrets, fell asleep without any burden. On the morning of the 4th day, I woke up early. Laura combed my wig for me, and I smeared things on my face. She said to me, "Are you still putting on makeup?" Since coming here, I've been putting on makeup every day, because my complexion is too bad. And also because I want to look presentable. Just a simple touch, to look more energetic. Laura didn't speak, but her hand movements became lighter. When Sierra came to deliver breakfast, I noticed that her expression was wrong. She was listless and absent-minded. Finally, when Laura went out, she approached me. "Sister Alara, Julian is your husband, right?" The hand holding the porridge trembled. I was about to open my mouth when I heard her say, "I didn't mean to rummage through your suitcase. I went to get you a change of clothes." I put down the porridge and looked at the girl who suddenly started to cry. "I snatched him from you. He should have been yours. I occupied him for 5 years. I'm really sorry, Sister Alara. I'm really sorry." The kind girl in front of me was crying uncontrollably. "Sierra, you didn't do anything wrong to me. Your lover is Julian, my lover is Julian. You didn't snatch anything from me. But Julian is Julian." I shook my head and wiped away her tears. "No, the one who loves you is Julian. The one who loves me is Julian." I said, "He's not him." "Then he's not. I risked my life to save you, but not to see you call off the wedding." Sierra stayed until Laura came back before she left. Her eyes were still red when she left. Laura went back to sleep in the afternoon and brought dinner back in the evening. I never imagined that Julian would deliver dinner. The moment I saw him come in, I was glad that I had put on makeup, but I was worried that my wig was crooked. I took advantage of the moment he turned around to fix it many times. The insulated container contained easily digestible egg custard, as well as milky steamed buns and braised short ribs. He probably didn't know what I could eat, so he made 2 portions. What surprised me the most was that there was also dessert, sweet potato cheese. I really wanted to taste the braised short ribs he made. I wondered if he put too much soy sauce this time, but my stomach could only accommodate a little bit of egg custard. I sat on the bed, and Julian stood by the window. We didn't say a word, but it didn't feel awkward at all. Once upon a time, we would take a nap until evening. I would sit on the bay window and play guitar, and he would lie on the bed and watch me, without saying a word, just because we understood each other. It was rare that my stomach was quite cooperative today. I finished the egg custard in the bowl. I was just about to take the sweet potato cheese when he came over and handed it to me. "Thank you." "No need to thank me. You saved Sierra. I should thank you." The originally sweet potato cheese was now full of bitterness. I ate a few bites hastily and finished dinner. I knew he had something to say, but in the end he only said 4 words, "Get well soon." I knew I should say some auspicious words now, "Happy wedding, grow old together," etc. But I couldn't say a word. "Thank you, I hope you." I used a little strength to continue speaking, "Live well." "Forgive me, this is the greatest blessing I can say." Julian nodded, picked up the insulated container, and left. My gaze followed his back. The moment the door closed, I pulled out the 4-drip and hobbled to the window with my injured leg. His back appeared in my sight again. I greedily looked at his back, wanting to engrave it in my mind. After all, this was the last time I would see him. The 5th day I came here was Julian and Sierra's wedding. I heard that my seat was in the 1st row. But I'm sorry, I'm already on the train. The train ticket was bought a long time ago, back to Lynn City. I started to have a stomach ache not long after I sat down. In the past few days, the frequency of stomach pains has been increasing. I know that the thing I asked Laura to do is about to happen. After being with Julian, I became very delicate. I would throw a tantrum at every little pain. Julian's friends all said that he had a bad temper, but since he started dating me, his temper has been so good that he has no temper. Even if I was being unreasonable, he would still coax me. I really liked that. He would always hug me tightly, his low and deep voice close to my ear. I heard him call me baby, and the pain disappeared in that instant. But now, the pain on my body is 100 times more painful than when the glass pierced my skin. I lay on the table and called his name. "Julian, why haven't you come to coax me yet?" The train traveled north all the way. Under the effect of the painkiller, I fell asleep. I dreamed that I had returned to high school and saw the 18-year-old Julian. The Julian whose eyes were only on me. The Julian who only loved me. If there is a next life, I hope that the first person I meet in my youth is still Julian.